What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 Chevy Equinox EV 3LT. Now, I basically looked at all the other trims of the Equinox EV. I think I've looked at a regular LT, I've looked at a 3RS, a 2RS, I've looked at front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. So all of the different options have basically been covered, but I had not looked at a 3LT yet, and I had a couple people in my last video ask me to go ahead and review that. So here we've got a beautiful $46,000 Equinox EV 3LT. As you can see, we've got the two-tone Summit White roof that we added on, which is only an option on the LT models. The last one we looked at had a contrast black roof, and that's only available on the RS models. So I think this gives it a really nice dynamic look. Basically, all the promotional imagery that Chevy put out had this kind of two-tone look when they announced the Equinox EV, so really nice design, and I like the style of it. But let's go ahead and just take a look at everything that we've got here on this 3LT model. So starting up front, all the Equinoxes have this same design, the really low profile LED daytime running lights and turn signals. You've got this light beam that runs across the front as well. Since this isn't the RS trim, you're gonna have gold Chevy bow ties and chrome on the side of the window trims. On the RS models, you get the blacked out trim and the blacked out Chevy bow ties. So just a visual difference there, but some people may prefer the black bow ties versus the gold bow ties. You've got some carbon fiber-y accents in the front, and then you've got your high beams and your main beams down below here, kind of tucked away and hidden. You got some passive air vents there, some cooling down here for the battery pack, some kind of satin accents, black accents on these ground effects here. Then you got a little radar down at front here. You do have a front-facing camera here that's gonna work with your HD surround vision, which we'll take a look at when we hop inside the cabin. Now, I've mentioned this before in previous reviews, but you do not have a frunk here on the Equinox EV. You just get access to your single motor here in the front on this front wheel drive model. Obviously, if they have the all-wheel drive, you'll have one in the front, one in the back, but you've got access to like your fluids and your 12-volt battery and things like that, but no frunk here. But you still do have a decent amount of storage in the back. Now, as far as performance between the front wheel drive and the all-wheel drive, obviously single motor for the front wheel drive, dual motor for the all-wheel drive. Front wheel, 213 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque, 319 miles of range. If you go up to the all-wheel drive with the dual motors, 288 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque, but your range is going to drop to 285 miles, which is still pretty good. Now, this Equinox here is sitting on 21-inch machined aluminum wheels. They're a two-tone wheel with this kind of 5-spoke design. I think they look really nice. As I've mentioned in my previous Equinox reviews, the wheels are massive, and while they still get decent range, I think if you had a smaller wheel option, you could get a little bit more range out of it, but nonetheless, 21-inch here on the 3LT. Now, moving back a bit to the charge port, this does have an 11.5 kilowatt onboard AC charger. You can do DC fast charging up to 150 kilowatts, and all that juice is going to go to an 85 kilowatt hour Ultium battery pack. I already mentioned that you do have the Summit White contrast roof, which is only available on the LT models, but you also get that mirrored on your mirror caps here, which I think is so cool. I really, really love this contrast. Although I'm not the biggest fan of blue, this Riptide Blue Metallic looks really nice, especially with this glowing white roof here. I did also want to mention these mirrors do have blind spot monitoring. They are heated, they have cameras up underneath, but they are manual folding mirrors. You've got some Equinox EV badging down here, a black and chrome trim piece down at the bottom, and then like I mentioned, you do have that chrome trim around the windows since this is kind of like the more glossy LT trim. RS, you're gonna have black trim. You can see our self-presenting door handles here, which you can open just like that. Put your finger on this little pad, they'll lock right up, and then you can actually click them in to manually open them like that. All right, so moving to the back end of the Equinox EV here, I really like how this contrast white roof extends into a little bit of a spoiler on the back to kind of keep that same theme that you see on the front of the vehicle in the back. I think it looks really nice. This will kind of keep some stuff off the top of the windshield, but you do have a rear wiper here, tinted rear glass. You've got a camera up underneath here that's going to work with your rear view camera and work with that HD surround vision. Unfortunately, you do not have a rear view mirror camera on this model, but you've got that gold Chevy bow tie, kind of like I mentioned in the front, LED tail lights, and then they extend across the bar here that runs along the back of the tailgate with these little segments, and I think it looks really nice. Equinox badging here. No RS badging, obviously, because this is an LT, but basically just the Equinox badge. So pretty clean back end, just a big sheet of body colored metal here. Then some black accents down below with some sensors, that camera I mentioned, a little bit of some satin accents at the bottom. Instead of having kind of that diamond weave pattern down here at the bottom, you just kind of have some basic lines. It's pretty standard. Again, the RS is like the sporty one that's gonna have all the sporty accents. The LT is kind of the more buttoned up one. You do have an auto sense tailgate, or you can just use the button up underneath to open the power lift gate. And with the tailgate open here, you can get access to 26 cubic feet of cargo space with the second row seats up. If you fold those down, 57 cubic feet of cargo space. You've got some LED lights back here, hooks, room for a cargo net. There's a 12-volt outlet back here as well. We've got our dual level charging cable back here, so you can plug different outlets into that, whether you want 240 or 120, depending on what you need. There's your other adapter there. We've got our towing eye just kind of floating around back here. And then you do have some underfloor storage as well, so you can store your charging cable down there if you want to. You also have a sunshade, it looks like, back here, and just some nice underfloor storage, some tools and things. So all the accessories you need back here, and plenty of cargo carrying capability as well. All right, so hopping here inside the cabin of the 2024 Equinox 3LT, you're not gonna notice a whole lot of differences between the different models outside of some of the accent pieces. So you'll notice that you've got, instead of having the red and gray accents, you've got kind of a blue and white accent. So that runs over here on the side panels, runs across the vents as well, over on the dash, on the center console. And then instead of having the red and blue accent stitching and RS badging, you have like a light gray accent stitching on the seating surfaces. So it's a little bit more subdued and less kind of aggressive and sporty. So if that helps you decide between the models, you know, price point is going to be pretty similar, you know, depending on whether you get your front wheel drive or all wheel drive. But if you prefer blue accents and kind of lighter accents, go with this one. But over on the door panels here, you've got a soft touch leather up top on the door panel. Again, that blue and kind of gray accent plastic piece here on the side. You've got kind of a rubbery accent on the armrest area, and then everything down from that is going to be hard black plastic, and that applies to all the Equinox EV trims. Like I mentioned, more of that blue plastic on top of the vents here. And these vents are your Camaro inspired vents that kind of pivot around inside of their little housing here. You can twist them to lock them shut or open them and then point them anywhere you want. You've got electronic parking brake, you've got your lane keep assist, auto vehicle hold, your trunk button, and then your brightness controls for your displays. And that same theme of kind of the some soft touch, some hard touch plastic continues across the top of the dash. So you've got some soft touch up around here, more of that blue accent piece here, and then above the vent over there, and then everything down from that is going to be your hard black plastic. You do have a weird little blind spot here on the Equinox that they try to compensate for with this little pocket window, but it just doesn't help at all. So just keep in mind this A-pillar is pretty significant and substantial. But if we move back over here, you've got a gigantic Chevy steering wheel here. It's almost like comically large. You've got some accent stitching around the inside. And again, because this is the LT, you've got chrome trim around the steering wheel, kind of accent pieces, and then the gold Chevy bow tie in the center. Your adaptive cruise control options are on the left side, and then your media controls and your heated steering wheel button are on the right side. Past that, on the left, you've got a light and wiper combo stock, and then you've got your shift stock on the right side. So park is a button, reverse is back and up, neutral is back, and then drive is back and down. And then all the way past the steering wheel here, you've got an 11-inch driver information display. These are both powered by Google, and they have all the same kind of modern Chevy infotainment design language. So everything's kind of like got this blue and orange theme going, got so much vehicle information on screen. You can switch through some different views. I really prefer the really clean layout, but you can customize it. You can have full screen navigation if you want that. Lots of different options to fully customize this how you want to use it. It's not my favorite infotainment display, but it's a nice, large, crisp display, and I think it looks nice. Now, if we move on over from that, you have another massive 17.7-inch Google infotainment display here on the Equinox EV. This is going to be absolutely packed to the gills with everything you could ever want outside of CarPlay and Android Auto. So we've got vehicle status, you've got different drive modes, you've got the Google Assistant built in, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Google News. Because this is powered by Google, you've got your full charging menu, your 360-degree camera system is there, ambient lighting, on-screen climate controls, Wi-Fi hotspot, obviously Google Maps, and then you've got Bluetooth connection for your phone as well, and the My Chevrolet app. Again, on-screen climate, like I mentioned, you do have heated and ventilated seats. Everything you could possibly need is somewhere in this screen. I've actually made a secret features video talking about some of the in-depth things that this screen can do. If you want to watch that, I'll have it linked down below. 2 vents underneath, and then you do have physical controls in addition to the software controls for your climate down below. This is a dual zone climate control system, so individually adjustable driver and passenger temperature, and you have vents in the back. You have a little storage pad down here, and then around this center console, like I mentioned, you've got this kind of blue plastic and some chrome accents, 2 cup holders, a little pocket here where you can tuck your phone, and then 2 USB-C charging ports. Then back here, you've got a kind of rubbery armrest area, but it is a little odd. It flips this way instead of opening up like this. Now that's great for the driver, not so great if the passenger wants to get in there, but you do have a tray in here, a nice deep pocket with a light and a storage mat down there. No additional ports though, but you can take this tray out if you don't want it or use it for organization. Auto dimming rearview mirror up top, but no rearview mirror camera like I mentioned outside. Black liner, you've got your OnStar buttons and then some LED dome lights up top. And then as far as the seating surfaces go, these are Chevy's Evotex seating surfaces. They're black with blue accents like I mentioned. So you've got leather up top, down the center with perforations, and then kind of some cloth accents with some accent piping and accent stitching on the sides. The driver is an 8-way power adjustable with 4-way lumbar. Passenger is a 6-way power adjustable with 2-way lumbar. The driver and passenger are both heated and ventilated, and the driver has position memory on the side. And then in the back, you've got heated outboard seats. You do also have ambient lighting in here that is customizable. And then as far as safety systems go, you've got enhanced automatic emergency braking, forward collision alert, front pedestrian braking and bicyclist braking, follow distance indicator, IntelliBeam auto high beam, safety alert seats, rear cross traffic braking, blind zone steering assist, reverse automatic braking, intersection automatic emergency braking, side bicyclist alert, and HD surround vision. All right, so hopping here into the back of the Equinox EV, the first thing that jumps out to me is you have really decent knee room. Now, not a whole lot of space to tuck your feet up underneath the seats, but I mean, I've got like probably 6-7 inches of rear leg room here. The seats kind of arc back to give you a little bit more. You've got mat pockets in both seats. You've got rear vents. You've got heated seats back here, 2 USB-C charging ports. You can fold this down, get an armrest, get a couple more cup holders. You get pretty good headroom too. The roof has a little bit of a slope in it. The only real kind of downgrade here is back here on the door panels. A lot of hard touch plastic back here all the way down. But you know what? It's the back seat of an Equinox. It's kind of what you've come to expect. So that's the only real downside. You've got some lights back here, some hooks, but everything else, again, spacing wise, really nice. 2 adults back here, no problem. 3 kids can definitely fit. The floor is really flat right here, so a little bit of extra space there. 3 adults is going to be kind of cramped, especially if they're a little bit larger. It's going to be really cramped, but 2 normal size adults back here, no problem. 3 kids are going to be fine. All right, let's take the Equinox EV for a little test drive. Now, reminder, this is the front-wheel drive model, so 213 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque, 319 miles of range. We are currently at 68% charge and have 221 miles of range. Now, I have reviewed all of the different models, both the front-wheel and all-wheel drive before, so I'm very used to kind of how it drives, but there's a noticeable performance difference between the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive. Now, that makes sense. There's significantly more horsepower, more torque. You got motors in the front and the back, so you'd expect that. If you do want the absolute peak range and you've never had an EV before, this is still going to be a much more enjoyable driving experience than a gas-powered vehicle. But if you're kind of an EV enthusiast or you've owned them before, you're gonna know how much of a difference there is between the front wheel and the all-wheel drive. That was basically to the floor, and it barely goes at all for an EV. Let's do it here again. Come to a complete stop, to the floor. Nothing. No push, no punch. Now, a lot of times with these lower horsepower and torque EVs, they typically have really bad off-the-line speeds, but when you're at cruising speeds, sometimes you can get a little punch, and that's not really the case here. Let's go ahead and put it in sport mode instead of normal mode and see if we can get a little more punch out of it. A little bit. We're gonna come to a stop here. I'll go ahead and go from 0 again here. Okay, there's a little punch there. Still, the 0 to 60 is just really, really slow. But again, you're gonna get great range, and if you're coming from a gas car, it's not really gonna feel that different acceleration-wise. Maybe a little bit better though. But while we're cruising here, we can get a dB test at city speeds. Right around 60 dB, it's very quiet. And we stop, I'll do it at idle. And as you'd expect, it's an EV, so it's gonna be probably close to nothing. Yeah, about 45 dB at idle. But let's talk about a couple things that I really like about the Equinox EV and a couple things that I don't like as much. Now, I've mentioned a lot of these in my previous reviews, so if you've seen those, you know, they're not that different. I really, really like the design of the Equinox EV. I think it's really attractive. I love this kind of contrast roof combo. I don't love blue, but Riptide blue, not a bad color at all. And with that Summit white roof, I think it looks so nice. And it's just very punchy and like modern looking, but at the same time having kind of the two-tone retro roof look. Really cool, love the design, love what they've done with the Equinox EV. Definitely worth checking out from a design standpoint. I love having the ventilated seats. I think that's a great touch, and it's a relatively affordable vehicle, at least in the EV space, at $46,000 pre-tax credit. So you're gonna be able to get this thing for somewhere in the 30s most likely. Having ventilated seats on something at that price point, you can't really always do that, even in higher end combustion vehicles. So having ventilated seats is always a nice touch, especially on warm days like this. It is currently 93 degrees on September 6th. I guess the third thing that I really like is just how jam-packed with safety features this thing is. Great first car, small family car. It's absolutely loaded with all the safety features that I've mentioned here. And again, for that price, it's really good. Now, I've already mentioned some of the things that I don't care for as much, but the acceleration on the front wheel drive really is just a little bit of a letdown. I wish it was a little bit quicker and had a little bit more power, but you know, at the price point and it being front wheel drive, it's to be expected. But again, it does have one of the slowest 0 to 60 times of any EV. Second thing that's not great, I kind of mentioned earlier, is this A-pillar blind spot. I don't even know if I've mentioned this in previous videos, but it always bothers me when I drive this thing. The reason is not only is it huge and chunky, but they gave you the pocket window. Really, from your perspective as the driver, you can see like this much of the pocket window. So it's kind of completely useless. Now you can see out the passenger one as a driver, and as a passenger, you'll be able to see out the driver one. What good is that? Right? Like, it's still a gigantic A-pillar and a gigantic blind spot, and it's not great. Then the third thing I have to point out is just the cabin materials. Again, I have to keep in mind price point, entry-level EV, and who this is marketed to, and all that kind of stuff. I get all of that. There are some nice materials, don't want to completely poo-poo it, but overall, a lot of plastic. But I guess we've just kind of come to expect that on a Chevy. Let's go ahead and go up here and get onto the highway, get a little highway dB test. Again, no Super Cruise here on this model, but you can get it as an option if you want to do some hands-free highway driving. And I've done some comparisons with Super Cruise on the Equinox and compared it to Tesla's Autopilot and FSD. If you want to watch that, I'll have it linked down below over on my tech channel. And while the 0 to 60 time and the off-the-line acceleration is not the best, it doesn't feel necessarily slow. It just doesn't feel as aggressive as some other EVs. And I think some people may actually like that, especially if you're transitioning from a gas vehicle to an electric vehicle. This might feel more like a stopgap for you. As far as, you know, the regen's not super strong. You can adjust it, but you can turn on one pedal if you want to, or you don't have to. You have the little regen on demand paddle, which I absolutely love. There's a lot of like features to help you kind of cross the bridge over into the EV space without just fully diving in like you kind of have to on some other electric vehicles. Just juice it off the line right there. Yeah, just, you know, again, not horrible. Still quicker than most gas cars. Most, not all, most. Nothing that's gonna blow you away. Get a dB test. Right around 69 dB on the highway. Not horrible. It's actually pretty quiet. And we'll just do cruise control here. Cool. Again, no lane keeping, but you can see what kind of ping pong between the lanes. So you do have to steer, but it'll keep me away from the vehicle in front of me. I'll turn my gap adjust down. really wish that most legacy manufacturers had a better kind of lane keep. Not like a lane assist, but like a lane keep, like keeps you dead center. Just pair that with your adaptive cruise and you're set. Not everybody needs total hands-free driving, but just something that would help lock you in a little bit better would be nice. Some brands have it. Subaru has it, Toyota has it, not everybody. So basically between the 3RS and the 3LT, it's mostly appearance based, right? You either get the really sporty looking one with all the aggressive black and red accents and badging and things like that with the black kind of trim delete and all that kind of stuff with the black roof, or you get more of the kind of high-end looking chrome and traditional Chevy bow ties and things like that with the white roof. And I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Which one do you prefer? Obviously, I think I've made my stance pretty clear that I prefer the black and red look, but that's again just a personal preference. We are actually getting 2025 models on the lot very soon. Not a whole lot of changes for 2025. I think we have a new color. They're bringing habanero orange into the fold. Stay tuned to the channel. Definitely hit subscribe because I'll be making a video on the 2025 very soon. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be one of the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.